In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, welcome to another session of of lessons from my mother. Happens all the time. So it's Tuesday. I know I'm off. I'm off the rhythm. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's now because of work and because of commitments and because of the summer. Timings are a little scattered. So yeah, summer really throws me off because I am not a fan of the heat. All my friends love the summer. They go out wearing shorts and just sunbathing and taking it in. And I would much rather it be autumn in Montreal, Boston, Islamabad, Ankara. Autumn is my favorite season. Or monsoon. I love monsoons in South Asia. I love monsoons. Um, Provided that the Pakistani government and India and all these countries which have a inclined topography end up constructing dams and reservoirs where they can use water correctly. I love the monsoons. Um, Summer, not really. Not a fan of the heat. Anyway, so today's lesson, we're on lesson number 71. Very quickly getting closer to the truth. In fact, now when I look at the list of lessons, I've started to see overlaps. I'm like, oh, I kind of mentioned that before. I don't know if I'll be able to do 86 separate lessons. I think I'll have to finish around 75, finish around 80, and then I have to interview a few friends as well. And I don't have to reach an even 100 even. I have 10 friends or so in mind, and I can just collect them as they are. But today's lesson is a very simple lesson. Everybody knows it. Very few of us practice it. And that is to stretch every morning. I remember being a child and watching my mum get ready for work or washing her face or washing my face because that's what mums do. And then after that, she would be in the mirror and do this. She'd do this in front of the mirror, maybe 5, 10 times, and I'd be like, "What are you doing?" And she'd say, "I'm stretching this. If you stretch this, this happens, and this happens." And she'd tell us very briefly, and then she'd tell us to do it too. Like whenever you have time, stretch your muscles and stretch your neck and stretch your back and blah blah blah. Never did it. Forgot all about it, especially as a child. Never really paid it much attention because mum used to say so. She still does it. She does this, and she has a few other stretches, which I can show you. And something I started doing after started Tai Chi and after started a few exercises in England, like 20 years ago, was to wake up every morning and stretch my arms, my neck, my back, and go try to touch my toes and do a bit of a stretch. I still do that. That's the extent of it. It literally takes 5 seconds, and I do it, and I'm done. Okay, I've done my stretch, and then go on about the day. Most of my family members, most of my friends don't do any of these stretches. And I have become more and more inundated just in conversations about complaints people have with certain parts of their body. And they're like, "Oh, my back hurts. Oh, my neck hurts. Oh, this hurts." Because those parts of your body are just not engaged. And I say this because I think I didn't know who I was explaining this to a couple of days or a week ago. This whole sitting posture on a chair in front of our screen for minimum 8 hours is is not something that we've done for more than 200 years, even less. So aristocracy and royalty in countries used to have thrones, and then the noblemen used to have chairs or places to sit. Everyone else sat on the ground. Whether you're outside or inside, you'd sit on the ground. Unless it's England and you're raining and you'd figure ways out to sit on a stone, maybe. But you didn't have chairs. Moreover, the work that we did was very physically laborious. You would hurt your lower back, you'd hurt your neck, and you'd be moving all the time. Now, you're static at a table and you're just writing and writing and writing and writing, and that's all you do. And you always forget that this is not only a mental exercise, but it's a physical exercise. And sitting is one of the most rested positions I know because I've been a waiter and front of house at a hotel. I know that. Um, because in those places you're not allowed to sit. You have to keep standing for 8, 10 hours, which is exhausting. And I've taught for hours and hours, so I never got a chance to sit. Um, so this is one of the rested postures, but our body isn't used to being this way for 8 hours. That's why you'll see all ergonomic, yogic, healthcare professionals telling you to do a bit of a stretch every 15 minutes or 15 minutes every hour. They keep telling you stand up, stretch your shoulders, move around. Do we do it? Most of us don't. Come on, be honest. Most of us don't do it. Most of us just keep working. That includes me too. There are many times I work, it's 3, 4 hours, I'm working, and suddenly I realize, oh, I haven't stretched. All right. Suddenly do a quick stretch and I'm back to work. That is the mentality that we work in now. So my mom used to do these facial stretches, and she would tell us to stretch our neck and stretch our arms and stretch our back and really expand and then contract and try to touch our toes and bend down and everything. And you can tie it to all these religious practices. So when you wake up as a Hindu and you worship with the sun and you do your yoga with the sun, there's a whole practice of waking up early in the morning with the sunrise and doing your yoga and your yoga stretches and breathing with the sun. It's called Surya Namaskar. It's not called Surya Namaskar, it's like doing yoga with the sun, but Surya Namaskar is one of the positions. In Islam, the morning prayer, Fajr, starts with a few minutes or some minutes before sunrise. Sometimes an hour, sometimes half an hour before sunrise. And you're up at sunrise and you're doing these fixed stretches. You stand straight, then you do a 90 degrees bend, and then you sit on yourself. What's the word for it? There's no word for it. I can't think of a word for it, but you sit on your feet and then you come back and you prostrate as well. So there's a whole lot of stretches, breathing, blood movement that is happening while you pray. And you can see that in most religious practices. An early morning stretch and breathing exercises are tied into it. So my mum tried to inculcate that into us. Um, and now I'm seeing the after effects of it. And I'll share a few stories, which is slightly, I'm not happy about them, but I will share a few stories. Um, I went for a run a couple of months ago in England. I came back home, and my elder brother, who's a nutritionist and big gym goer, so he said, "Okay, now you're back. Do your stretches." What stretches? He's like, "You don't stretch after you run?" No. You stretch before you run? A little. He's like, "You're supposed to stretch 5 minutes, and then when you're back, 10 minutes." So he told me a few stretches. I do them now. Relax, gym community. And he came back. I came home, and he said, "Why don't you turn yourself into a cat and stretch this?" And I did it, and I pulled a muscle in my core, and I was like, "Oh, what just happened?" And he said, "You've never stretched your core before?" I was like, "No." And he was like, "Oh, you have to contract this, you have to stretch this, you have to do that." And it hurt. And it remained for like 5 minutes. I was like, "Good Lord, what just happened?" Then I was in England a month and a half ago, and I was at a conference, and I remember I dropped my keys from my hotel room, and I quickly bent down to pick them up, and I pulled a muscle here. I was like, oh, what just happened? And mind you, I'm quite active. I run 30, 40 kilometers a week at least. And I now also work out, but I'm relatively active, and even I'm pulling muscles, and I'm like, oh. And that stayed for like 5, 10 minutes. I was like, oh, what just happened? Imagine doing that if you're a medical doctor. Imagine doing that if you are a lorry driver or a forklift operator. Imagine doing that when you are giving a presentation or United Nations address or a class. If I were giving a class and I said, well, and I was like, oh, and my students are like, "Sir, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." And then I go sit on the side for 10 minutes, and I'm like, "Yeah, why don't you guys take a break while I recover?" I'm in my 30s. It doesn't make sense. But I've seen it happen to me, and I realize it has nothing to do with your fitness. It has nothing to do with what you eat. It's to do with your stretches, and your body isn't stretched and contracted, and it isn't flexible. And that's completely on you. Why didn't you do it? And I have friends around the same age, some older, some just 30, who have body pains. Why do you have body pains? Well, I've been working from home for the last 5 years because my job is remote. So I sit on the same sofa with my laptop. And once I'm done with the laptop, I'm done with work. And then I wake up and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just eat something and drink something and go back to the sofa. Oh, if you thought that office work, let me put it this way, the physical impact of going from the field and laborious physical work to office work where you sit upright for 8 to 10 hours a day, that physical impact is congruent to the impact now we feel with so many remote workers. I'm not even going to talk about the psychosocial impact of remote work. Just the physical impact is enough, and it's problematic. And we don't realize it. We're like, yeah, I don't have to travel to work. I don't have to get dressed. I can just wake up, go on my laptop, and start working. You're like, okay. Can you do it for 30 years? I don't know about 30 years. Can you do it for 20? Well, can you do it for 10? Maybe. Can you do it for 5? Yeah, 5 I can do it. And the truth is we can't. We think 5 years is a manageable amount of time. But 5 years is 250 weeks, 260 weeks. That's a lot. If I ask you to do an exercise, just one exercise, let's say 50 squats every morning. You wake up, you do 50 squats for 1 week non-stop. Every morning you do 50 squats. Most of you wouldn't be able to do it. It's just 50 squats without any weights. Just you. Take your time. But do it before you have breakfast. Now multiply that by 260. You see what I mean? 5 years is a long time, but we've deluded ourselves into thinking in different temporal terms. Oh, a year is 365 days, blah, blah, blah. Can you believe it's already May? People say that. But if you start thinking in weeks, things become much more palatable. We can't think in days. There's too many days, but there's 52 weeks. You could actually divide the year. And I have a TED talk coming about this very topic. So most of us have these pains. One of my closest friends in England, I go see him and he's like, yeah, man, my neck's been hurting. For how long? 3 weeks. What happened? Have you been to a chiropractor? Have you been to a massage therapist? No, it's just, I think it's from working from home. No, I'm certain it's from working from home. What have you done about it? That's us. That's where we are. So my mum's been advocating these stretches for all this time. I have a wonderful friend here. He's married to one of my closest friends and proverbial sisters, but he was also a good friend of mine, Anthony Terzian. And Anthony he's a beast. He's 6'4" and he's built and he's like this gigantic Lebanese giant. And he's a gentle giant. He's a very loving fellow. And I was telling him, hey man, you know what I want to do? I want to be able to touch my toes and I want to be able to do this. And but I'm older and I haven't gone out. I haven't joined a gym. And you understand, you're a giant. I said, what, touching my toes? I was like, yeah, you're so big and you're muscular, you can't do it. And he's like, bend down, touch his toes. I was like, how'd you do that? I was like, it's not about size, it's about flexibility. I stretch. I was like, how'd you do? Not only are you physically gigantic and powerful, you can also stretch. Really? It was like, yeah, I can put my foot behind my neck still. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah, not in these trousers. I was like, no, I'm sure that wasn't my concern, whether in these trousers. You in your 30s can do it. He was like, yeah, because I stretch. I drink water and I breathe. And he explained it to me. And I was like, my God, it's my fault. My God, I am at fault here. And I've been ignoring my mum's lesson with regards to this, which is all on me. Another thing that my mum has started doing, which I found to be very interesting, is she does this. She taps parts of her body for a while and generate circulation, to awaken dead skin, not awaken dead skin, but to invigorate activity in those regions. There's multiple factors associated with it. And she was like, yeah, look, I do this after I do my stretches. I do breathing. I've done another lesson about breathing in clean air every morning, which she's taught us. And these two, sorry, these things tie into each other. So one thing that I have gotten back into is doing this morning stretch, which sometimes I forget, but now I don't. And the other thing is I do this too, especially when I'm at work. I can do, just wake yourself up a little. Just wake yourself up. If you're watching this, take a moment, just do this. And you'll be like, ooh, I haven't been slapped since I was 5. What just happened? You see what I mean? A lot of it is just dormant and you wake it up. Another thing that I saw is one of my sister-in-law's dads. Is there an easier way to say that? One of my brothers-in-laws. Yeah, that's an easy way to say that. One of my brothers-in-laws is this wonderful, wonderful man. He's been in business and also has roots in village life. So he understands the importance of maintaining physical health, even as a successful businessman. So I remember my mum talking about this, and I've seen it myself, that every morning or every time during the day, you can see him watching TV. He has all the most wonderful furniture in his house. You see him doing a flat foot squat and just watching news. And you're like, why are you squatting on the ground where you could just sit on one of your lavish sofas? And he was like, yeah, it's good for the legs. And you're like, yeah, but you're an older man and you're a senior citizen. You don't need to do this. He's like, no, I'm okay with it. He didn't defend it. I remember. He doesn't justify it. He doesn't pontificate. He was like, no, it's just something I'm used to. But in 60 plus, 70 plus, you can see a 70-year-old man doing a flat foot squat and you can't, and there's something wrong with you. And I noticed, and my mum noticed, and she mentioned it to us as well. And I said, yeah, I saw it too. It's really remarkable if you're able to do that. I still have trouble doing a fully flat foot squat. The balance doesn't work for me, but I keep trying because that's something I want to do. So the lesson here is not just to stretch your facial muscles. Obviously, you should do that. But if you could spend 5 minutes every morning and then maybe 5 minutes after lunch and 5 minutes after going home, which none of you would, because I wouldn't either, I'd forget. But stretch your neck, stretch your chin, stretch different parts of your body. As what I've noticed is it just makes me feel so much better. If you go to a massage therapist or an acupuncturist or a chiropractor, they don't really do much. I mean, a lot of it you could do on your own. I understand you can't reach parts of your back. A lot of it you could do on your own, and we don't. But you go there and they start, like, have you seen in Pakistan, masseurs do it, but also barbers. When you go to a barber, the barber also massages you with oil. And they take your fingers and they do this. They just stretch it and snap it out. They don't break it. And you're like, wow, my hand feels amazing. And you're like, you could have done that to yourself. Why don't you? Just stretch your fingers out and massage your palm and, and massage this. We don't do it. And then 10 years go by and we realize, I've had this chronic pain for 8 years. And then you realize, well, you've been sitting for 8 years rather than being active or stretching. So the lesson here, I can't tell people to stretch. I'm not the best example of it because I forget most of the time. But secondly, this is one of the lessons which most people already know. So me saying it doesn't do anything. Everyone knows this. So I'm not adding anything specific to it. But if you could, it'd be really helpful. It would be really, really helpful if you could start stretching and breathing at the right time. It does wonders. It does wonders for your physical and mental health. We don't realize it, but it really does. I'm going to stop here because I have to head to work. Have a wonderful week ahead, and I shall